For the first time in nearly 2 years, the Integrity Racing League is back again in Japan. It's been a long time coming, but we finally take ourselves all across the world. In the spare time since we've last been here, we've gone multiple times to Europe, we've gone to Italy, we've gone to Austria, we've gone to Germany, but this was our very first international expedition, and we're very, very pleased to return. Welcome to the 11th race of the 2025 Integrity Ignite Series season, where today we're back at the Twin Ring Motegi for a 100-lap main feature, and we're excited to return to Japan. Welcome back live on FTN Broadcasting. I'll be your host for tonight's event. I'm David Kreutz, commentating and producing. Fresh off the heels of our Thursday night race in Japan, we've also got a special guest in the broadcast booth in Lucas Lodato, the championship points leader for Swamp Motorsports in the Highline Racing League Westlake Premier Series. Lucas, we're getting to work now with about 2 minutes left in qualifying. Times are being taken as we speak, and looking onto the circuit now, more than 35 have registered for tonight's racing. Jared Davis is at the top of the board, and we're very close to figuring out how that starting lineup is going to look. So, with that said, any thoughts as we begin this broadcast and, of course, are so close to getting these drivers to work?
Yeah, you know, it's always very exciting to be overseas with one of these things. I think it's cool that we get to bring our show international. It does look like kind of the people that we expected to be up towards the top are sort of up there right now. So I'm very excited to see how it'll pan out. The Highline race is very interesting. So we'll see how these Xfinity cars race here.
So far, as you might be able to see already on the broadcast booth, it is a foggy day in Japan. Visibility about as low as it gets. The humidity and hence the fog is going to make it a gray out for the majority of the night. Nevertheless, most drivers have taken times. It is currently Jared Davis up to the top of the board, Nick Tarbuck, Sam Nieto, Hunter Madalenas, Thomas Bressi. Yeah, as you said there, Lucas, all the familiar faces are up at the front of the field, and they're showing exactly why they are up there in the points to begin with. We've got a minute left on the clock. 46 drivers have registered. A big field for a big mile and a half. Now, Lucas, you just raced here. How different is Twin Ring compared to the American Intermediates?
It's definitely got a lot of different characteristics than we would see over here. It's, you know, it's oddly shaped. It's basically like a really, really big gateway. Really long straights and really slow corners, so slipstream matters a lot down the straights here. It's very unique, very different, and a very tough challenge for these drivers out here tonight that are used to, you know, your mile and a half that you'd see over stateside. But it'll be exciting to see how they adapt to that sort of change in track.
20 seconds left on the clock for drivers to take times, a majority of which are completed. We're still waiting on Cal Filarski and Steve Durham, but it appears rather unlikely that either of them will head to the track. With that said, the all-black number 19 returns to a familiar position. It's going to be Jared Davis with the pole. His quick time is a 36.646, nearly a full tenth of a second advantageous over the rest of the field. He's got himself to the pole, and he'll be alongside tonight Nick Tarbuck for P2. Qualifying has concluded. We got 5 minutes now in between to get this race going, and our starting grid is set. So before, of course, we continue our coverage, let's take a look now at the lineup from top to bottom. And of course, we're going to start with those top 10. First and foremost, your pole sitter tonight, Jared Davis, going for the pole position. He's got the quick time, a 36.6, and he's in his own category when it comes to that pace. Second on the order will be Nick Tarbuck in the number 29 with P3 and Sam Nieto, Hunter Madalenas then in fourth, and Thomas Bressi, P5, alongside his JTM Motorsport teammate. That will be Matthew Thunhorst, then in sixth. Seventh place on the day will be Nicholas Ward with Matt Preston eighth, Vinny Tigner ninth, and DJ Stagner of Swamp Motorsports. To round out the top 10, Lucas, let's go down to 20th.
Looks like we will have Ethan Lane starting in 11th, Michael Lorea alongside him. We'll have Blake Cannon in 13th with Rob Ackley in 14th. Jack Drucker starting 15th with Michael Stroll next to him in 16th, looking to have a good race tonight. Tom Wetmore had a tough first lap, but ended up coming back and having a nice second lap to put him in 17th. Justin Morton alongside him. Ronnie Osmer starting 19th, and to round out the top 20, Jacob Fife.
Just after Fife will be Sebastian Miller in the number 83. Blake Gordon then goes 22nd with Adam Wood 23rd. The defending champ today starts 24th in Braxton DeWeese. Look further back, you'll see Brian McFerrin, P25, Josh Christman in 26th. Tyler Hensley, who came away with a strong top 10 finish in 2023, starts tonight just behind. He'll have himself 27th. Cody Smith in the Next Level Racing number 18. Today he'll start 28th. To round out the top 30, Boomer Logan and the 99 of Ryan Potter, who had himself a strong run with a fourth place qualifying start on Thursday, Lucas, as we go down to the top 30.
Dale Brooks will be starting in 31st with Elliot Henderson alongside. Will Reichert from Ranger Racing Team in 33rd with Casey Shue in 34th. Daniel Foss in 35th. Gavin Fitzgerald in 36th. Brandon Bernhardt and Brant McLennan will start next to each other in 37th and 38th. Paul Mikolajczyk will start in 39th, and Don Stevenson in 40th.
Your final drivers on the day then go as follows with Josh Gallagher, 41st. You'll have Kyle Cooper, P42, and your 43rd place man will be Andrew Hamilton. 44th goes Alan Rawell. Steve Durham is 45th, and Calvin Filarski is the 46th and final driver on the lineup tonight. It's a stacked field without a doubt, and we're ready to get back to business with every driver ready to roll. 46 at this mile-and-a-half venue for our second ever trip to the Twin Ring Motegi. Welcome back to Japan. We're about ready to go green. Only 2 minutes now separating us from the start of tonight's event. We have a little bit of time for these drivers to take those warm-up laps. We mentioned the weather. It's pretty evident on screen that visibility is rather low, but Lucas, you think it's going to play at all into how these drivers approach the race?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, temps and things like that will always change how the cars drive. You know, it seems like a relatively cool trap temp at 88 degrees Fahrenheit right now. We'll see if these clouds and the fog clear up a little bit and heat up that track and make the conditions tougher for these guys. But right now, you know, the air is really dense and the track is relatively.
And that's going to play much into the favor of the field tonight when it comes to just having that element of control. As long as you have yourself in a good position, not worrying about grip, not worrying about burning yourself up all that much, might see a little bit more of the long-form strategy play in. Usually weather like this gives us a lot more strategic racing. We've seen it before at Daytona. We've seen it prior at the Nashville Superspeedway. Whenever this happens, we see a different attitude from the racers, and I think that's very likely now with the 40-some seconds to play. Now we're getting close to our beginning of this race, and Lucas, I'll tell you this much. Great to have you in the broadcast booth, and with your insight, you got any picks for who's going to get the job done?
You know, it's always hard to go against my swamp guys. I think that DJ will find his way up towards the front. But, you know, we always got to look at the guys that are starting up front. Jared Davis, Nick Tarbuck. Those guys are always up at the front, running really well, running good in the standings right now. Thomas Bresci, he'll be looking to continue his championship challenge. And Madalenas, you know, only 7 starts, but he's right up there in the top 5. He's starting up at 4th today, so we'll see how he runs. Yeah, I think it'll come down maybe if there's a late race caution and maybe if somebody decide to do something funky with the strategy, as you said. It'll be very interesting to see how the tires end up wearing here. The pavement in Japan is quite different than it is in the US, so it'll just wear the tires differently, and we'll see, even with these cooler temps, maybe there's a bit more tire wear than the guys would have expected.
And you mentioned differences across the world. This is our only international oval on the first leg of the campaign. We've been here now twice, and it's fitting that the guys who have that experience from our 2023 race are the guys who are up in front in qualifying, except for one. Jared Davis will be the man who leads the field to green tonight, and you'll take a look all the way down the ladder. You mentioned something about Hunter Madalenas, and he's 94 points off of the championship lead, currently held by Thomas Bresci, but he's missed 3 races. We talked about it pre-race, and the stats show that if he just ran all 10, and even if he didn't have good finishes in the 3 races he missed, he would firmly at least be in the running for second place, if not have himself the championship lead as a whole. He starts today in 4th. This could be a pivotal race for him, as over the last 5 races, the championship lead has swung in Thomas Bressy's favor. He's gained 94 points on Blake Cannon, or rather the rest of the field, including 94 on Matt Alenis and more than 40 now on all other contemporaries. He's been the man of the season again. He was second place in the championship last season after a heartbreaking final lap disconnection. With 12 to go, he disconnected from the season finale race. He's looking to prove that that won't happen again. He's told us his goal, many bonus points as possible. He'd like to take them. But Davis gets the pole today, as we're now only a half lap out, Lucas.
Yeah, I'd like to feel like that with this long season, there's a lot of tracks, a lot of races in this schedule that Atlantis definitely isn't out of the championship fight. I mean, he's shown his points per race, as you mentioned, are extraordinarily high for only 7 starts, being only 94 points back, tied for 3rd place in the standings right now with Blake Cannon. If he's able to run all the races going on, then I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there in the championship fight.
Jared Davis holding control. He's got Nick Tarbuck to his outside. Matt Alenis is just alongside on the second row with Sam Nieto here. Of these 4 drivers, the only one of which was yet to see victory lane in the Ignite Series is Nick Tarbuck. Last time we were here in Japan, he finished second place. Here we go again. 1 lap to green, everyone getting organized, and it looks like our field of 46 is fully together. 100 laps on the docket, coming in at about 150 miles overall. Drivers going to be taking advantage of this wide racing circuit, but there's only one preferred groove. That's the inside. We saw it on Thursday. Very likely again, drivers will be diving to the bottom as their preference.
Yeah, I think in 1 and 2, especially on restarts, you can really stick it on the outside and try to drive around some guys in some tight racing when the pack is sort of bunched up and take advantage of a stack up. But as the run goes on, it will definitely become bottom dominant, and I think you're going to see guys, the only way they're really getting past is if they either get moved or if they miss the bottom in 3 and 4 particularly, or if they hit the wall out of 1 and 2. So we'll see how it develops along. I think that these guys will get to grips with these Xfinity cars quick. And we should see some good running. Should be right about an hour of racing if we go green the whole day, so should be in for a good one.
Short compared to some of our other intermediate races, but sweet indeed to be back overseas. It's a challenge we don't often face, but I'm sure the drivers are now excited to tackle it firsthand. Pace car's got its lights off. That means we're going racing this time by. Jared Davis and Nick Tarbuck will set it off for the field of 46, our biggest in any international forte. 2023, we had 32 drivers make their appearance, 14 more this season. Now, as we get to business for race 11 on the calendar, the pace car ducks low. It's all about Jared Davis and Nick Tarbuck as we get off the start-finish line. 2 by 2 to the start-finish line in Japan. We're under green flag conditions for the first time with the Twin Ring since 2023, and Davis sets it off strong with a car length into 1.
It looks like everybody got off pretty clean there. Everybody settled. Right now, it looked like there was some 3 wide action going into 1, but they settled each other out. They got there. No incidents so far. Looking pretty clean.
Down the back straightaway, largely double file, still information from that qualifying procedure. Now we're going to see drivers try and slide into the inside. Sam Nieto's got himself comfortable position down low with Thomas Bresci. That might give a disadvantageous position to Matt Alenis, but Nick Tarbuck is just ahead to slide through on Sam Nieto. Nevertheless, Jared Davis gets that good start, and he turns a car length into 3, and that's the lead he was hoping to get. It's now the lead that he absolutely has, as he'll make his way down the back straightaway here. Tarbuck in second, Nieto third, Thomas Bresci P4, and in the fight directly now with the championship rival to be, then there's Matthew Thunhorse's teammate.
Yeah, and you can already see it starting to get pretty single-filed out. Matt Alenis is the only one up in the top 10 or 15 or so that are still hanging it out on the outside, and then you get a bit double file back as we get back towards Justin Morton and Sebastian Miller in the back here. A bit of contact with Sebastian Miller there, able to clear it up. But yeah, looking like it's already getting pretty close to bottom dominant. as we were sort of expecting. But we'll see who's able to save their tires, who burns them off in this initial run here. Lot of laps left, so we'll see how it pans out.
You know, Lucas, I don't mean to rub any salt in the wound, but if we think about the past month on FTN, maybe the most exciting moment came between you and Miller at not a similar track, but a very bottom-heavy, inside groove style of circuit where the action happened when the Highline Racing League went to Milwaukee here. Now, Miller was able to collect his first win on FTN through that night, his first Highline Racing League win in the Premier Series anyhow, and we're looking at him right now. He's running in that mid-pack where it still is sort of 2x2. He's going under again on Justin Morton here. If we think about the 83 in particular, a driver who's still looking for his first... Oh, Blake Gordon!
Oh, big trouble! He saved it.
What a save!
Save by Blake Gordon there. Great save. That was scary looking right there, but great save, and everyone avoided.
Wow. 4 wide after the save. He puts it together. Gordon goes down from about 20th to 29th, but the fact he kept it through, he was driving down on that apron. Wow.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay with losing those spots after not being plowed through by the guys behind him. That's great driving all around from everyone to avoid that incident, and for him to be able to save that. That car was sideways as sideways could be. That was great driving.
And you would have thought he was going to drift it into Miller, who was just ahead of him there. Luckily, very little damage. The only thing he's going to have is that tire scuffing, as you mentioned. That can be fixed. What can't be fixed is any critical damage. No fast repairs. That would have been horrible. Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure that he'll learn from that and not make that mistake again. That's one that he'll be suffering with the rest of the stint. But, you'd rather learn early on here while you still got some pit stops to go than suffer that with about 10 to go or 5 to go. So, like I said, great driving from everybody there to avoid a big incident.
Looking back to the front of the field, it looks like it's going to be a single file affair. Nick Tarbuck getting the lead over Jared Davis. Davis now being pressured for second, but overall very little has changed at the head. We'll look a little bit further back. Michael Araya goes side by side with Vinny Tigner. Tigner, a former champion of Saturday Night Thunder on FTN. Laraya, a former champion of the Octane Series. Another former champ is ahead of them in DJ Stagner here. He's running in 10th. Double file still a little bit more popular outside of those leading placements, but I gotta wonder, how good is it for these drivers equipment-wise to try to make the outside work? Laraya is still hanging on to Vinny Tigner right now, but I don't know if it's going to be long-term or sustainable, Lucas. Based on what you saw on the racing circuit Thursday or through test laps today, do you think there's any chance that second groove can be worn in at all?
I don't feel like it will be throughout the run. I feel like if opportunities will arise for guys where they'll want to stick it around the outside, but they'll have to keep it tight to the guy that they're trying to pass, make it possible. I don't think it'll come in. I think on restarts it'll be prevalent, but anywhere else, I don't think you're going to be seeing much.
And Laraya slots in as you say that here, Lucas, and it's really a train at the head of the pack. It gives you long green flag racing, and it gives you reason to be creative with strategy, but I think right now, even for the drivers, this is one of those trickier portions where you have to think, these laps matter, yes, but it's hard to stay fully focused when you know it's all about getting through them to find more success. You'll see Ryan Potter, Tyler Hensley further on back here, Will Reichard with Blake Gordon, and it looks like even at the tail end of the field now, it's becoming all about comfort, with drivers really settling in to where they end up being on pace.
Got some 3 wide looking up at the front there with DJ Stagner in the middle, down across the start-finish line. We'll see how that sorts out into turn 1.
Looks like Stagner with the advantage, and Laraya is the one who falls back in this one.
Like one of them got a little bit upset off of there and just sort of opened the door on them. Settle that out. That could have been there.
Now that's going to give the opportunity also to Blake Cannon. Watch out for the number 44 on the Tuesday nights. Today he's again in the 27. Cannon is looking for a redemption race after a string of weeks that have sent them from the firm championship leader to an outsider. While he's still top 5 of the championship points, he's lost an abundance on that Thomas Bresci team, who have proved undeniable in the last several weeks. Cannon now is making his way up. He's into the 12th position, and he might have a chance at the top 10 now as he's eyeing it with Matt Press and Lariah just ahead.
Yeah, and as you were mentioning a minute ago, I think that it's the type of part of the race now where everyone's really racy, but nobody wants to burn their stuff up. They want to make it last. There hasn't been a quick caution. There's been some tight racing, but no big signs that there's going to be a big one or a caution coming out anytime soon. So these guys are going to want to save their stuff and just make it to the end of the run competitively. In the Highline race, that's kind of what happened with me. I stayed out a little bit too long, thinking that I saved too much tire, and by the end of it, I was burning it off. In that final run there, I got passed by Terry Brooks towards the end, but the guys who pitted a few laps before me were even worse off than me. So I think that these guys are going to want to just be saving their stuff and just making the laps and making sure they're not losing too much ground or gaining opportunities where they can if guys in front of them mess up. But right now, as we can see by the single file nature of the racing, it's pretty lax. Everybody's just trying to log laps and see where they stand by the time the pit stop phase comes.
First cycle tonight where we have 100 laps and about 150 miles on the table. We could be seeing drivers go as long as 50. We don't have any of the fuel caps on these drivers, so the field could stretch it as long as they would like. Very likely that if things stay calm and collected, we see a one-stop race. Could see it end up being a multi-stop event. That just comes down to whether or not the field stays clean and green, which so far looks like most drivers are really comfortable where they are, and I don't think you're going to see much changes as a result. Blake Cannon was trying to make some moves. He got closer to Matt Press. He's in 11th now, but it doesn't look like he's going to go any further for the moment, which leaves everyone really at a standstill. Single file all the way down from beginning to end. Very few exceptions. I'm looking at Adam Wood right now. This is for 28th, mind you, and these two drivers, Josh Christman and Wood, are going at each other for position.
Yeah, it looks like track temp is rapidly rising. We're all the way up to 94 degrees. When I was just at the start of this lap, it was at 92, and we were in the warm-up laps, it was at 88 Fahrenheit. So the track is rising, even though the fog isn't dissipating any, unfortunately. But the track temp is rising, so these guys are going to start fighting more and more slides and more tire wear and tire heat. I think if they can make it 50 laps or more, then they're going to want to get there. There might be some guys that are really burning their stuff off that end up trying to make it a two-stop race, even if it does go green. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, track temp is rising quite fast. All at 95 degrees now, jumped up another degree as I'm talking. So we'll see how that plays into these guys' hands. It's going to just get tougher and tougher for them.
Blake Gordon dropping low and Adam Wood. Again, that amazing save so early on, costing him position. That's still the fight for about the 28th spot. Nick Tarbuck has held a comfortable advantage over the field to this point, while Sam Nieto's gotten himself up to second place. He can only watch now as the 29 remains your leader. Jared Davis, not so much. He's fallen about a second off from the race lead so far, and while he was great in qualifying, it looks like he's showing some early race pace flaws. A lot of time for things to be corrected. I don't think I'd be particularly concerned if I was Davis right now, but of course he's losing time, and you gotta wonder whether or not Tarbuck is pushing a little bit too hard, or if Davis has something left in the tank, or if he doesn't, what's next for the 19 and those behind, because Nick now holds a half second over everyone else.
Yeah, and this phase of the race is really just a learning phase for these guys. This is the first time that they've all been out on track in the same agenda. Practice, everybody's doing different runs on different tires, and I think this is the first time that they're all in the same sort of air. Dirty air is affecting everybody equally, except for the leader, obviously. Oh, we got wreck in the back. Ryan Potter is around.
It's the 99. We're taking a look back immediately as the yellow flag is out. Ryan Potter, as you mentioned, that's the number 99. He's involved in the first of the day. Had a strong run on Thursday night at this track, but it looks like some early issues, and we're taking a look now.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Ryan there, let's see what happens here. Oh, he was an innocent victim in that.
It looks like both Hensley and McFerrin overshot the corner, and Brian ended up ricocheting right back into Potter. That's what causes the contact. That is what causes the caution. And Casey Shue luckily spins out of the way of Potter. That could have been a lot worse as Casey Shue ended up sliding out. Caution's out.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for Ryan there. Nothing he did wrong there, just get caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Highly unfortunate, but damage doesn't look too bad. Hopefully the car's not too messed up. Maybe didn't get hit in the wheel or anything, so hopefully for him he can get that damage fixed, and those couple other guys that got caught up in that as well.
As we take a look currently, a little bit of front end buffering, but as you mentioned, it doesn't look like it's race ending. Still going to be a harder night than usual for Potter as he finds himself with early damage and some of the first contact on the night. Same went, of course, for Brian McFerrin. Tyler Hensley slammed the wall at the same time, and Casey's shoe slid out of the way to avoid the incident. He will come down to pit road, as does the majority of the field, for our first pit stop cycle of the day. I think this will make it a two-stop pit race by default. One pit stop still necessary from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that these guys are going to be happy that that caution came out. I think that a lot of them are going to want to see where their tire wear is at, and they're going to learn a lot from those first laps or so there.
Jack Drucker, winner off pit road. He'll get the jump over Nick Tarbuck, Sam Nieto, Thomas Bressi, Hunter Madalenas, and Nicholas Ward. With Jared Davis, Ethan Lane, and DJ Stagner, the final men now in the top 10. The only holdout of which is the 27 of Blake Cannon. He remains on the track, but now it is Drucker, your Daytona winner. Back to the front of the field on a two-tire call.
Yeah, very interested to see if Blake Cannon's going to come down a pit here and want to start at the back, or if he's going to try to stay out and leg this out with some track position. We'll see how much the tires are different between them. But yeah, it looks like Drucker made a two-tire call there. That's very interesting. Is that two tires, or was it? Yeah. Yeah, that was two tires. Oh no, that was fuel only. Yeah, his car did not go up in the air. I'm pretty sure that was fuel only for Drucker. So, maybe just trying to give himself a little bit more of a window, but that was an interesting strategy call. I mean, we did talk about that in the pre-race, that there might be some interesting strategy ideas that go on here, so we'll see how Cannon and Drucker fare up in the front. The rest of these guys are pitted for 4, so we will see how it shakes out for them.
So, looking at two drivers who are on the old rubber, but one who stopped for service. That is going to leave us with a front row of unpredictability. Jack Drucker gets it back up to second. Blake Cannon is your leader. Nick Tarbuck is the winner of those on the 4-tire strategy. Drucker gaining 8 seconds on pit road by virtue of having such a slow, or rather such a quick pit stop. His time on pit lane was a little longer, but either way, his pit stop time itself was the fastest of anyone inside the top 20, coming in at 6.6 seconds from the moment he entered the box to the point which he left it. That's what gets him up to second now as we restart with lap number 21 just ahead of us. It's going to be Blake Cannon and Jack Drucker now first and second. The field now comes to green. It's going to be Cannon in control on the bottom, and now we're both going to figure out what happens here from the broadcast booth as the old rubber gets a good start. Blake Cannon with the jump. He'll pull a good 2.5 car lengths, but Drucker, not so much. He's already being swept up on the outside.
Tightly contested battles for position here, as we expect in these restarts. It's always tight, always tough.
Ethan Lane, we're watching a board now from DJ Stagner's perspective, and you can see Tom Wetmore's a little bit loose, but he'll save it. Oh, that was Ansi, but just ahead. We got trouble with Hunter Madalenas.
Oh, Riker came plowing into him there. That was unfortunate. It looked like people were going to avoid him, but oh, that was unfortunate. Let's see a replay on that.
We're taking a look now. The caution is out. Hunter Madalenas among others involved, and a slam. It starts with a spin. Side by side, close with Sam Nieto. Quarter panel contact does him in.
Yeah, looks like Nieto got into the corner pedal there. It sort of drove into him and kind of caused that whole deal. I'm sure that they'll have a talk about it afterwards, but that's unfortunate for Madalenas' championship charge.
Will Reichert with that huge plow into the 0-7. You mentioned it, Lucas. And not only that, but Nicholas Ward also spinning Hunter around before Reichert and Josh Christman came in. Big hits. The 0-7 ends up taking the brunt of the load for everyone. That is horrible. And it looks like now Don Stevenson getting back up there. The field is shuffling itself out. Looks like Hunter still has his own power, but still, big contact, although the front end looks mostly fine.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate for Will there. He just sort of got stacked up with all the guys that were checking up. He was behind Casey Chu and just tried to avoid him and then got turned and then went straight in the back of Madalenis. So big championship implications here with Madalenis getting spun around early. We'll see if he's able to come back, but he took a big hit there right at the end.
Madalenis, Hensley, Osmer diving into pit road, as does just ahead Steve Durham. Cautions out for the second time today, 23 laps in. Your overall race leader remains one of the few. Took on the old rubber challenge. And it looks like it's going to be Blake Cannon still at the head of the pack as we are set to go green this time by. It'll be Cannon, or this coming time by. We're getting up to that lap anyhow. Cannon, Tarbuck, and Jack Drucker are the 1-2-3 combination to this point. And perhaps Cannon getting such a great jump on old tire was the biggest surprise of all.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're happy to see this caution come out. Somebody else that's happy to see this caution come out go quickly is Ryan Potter. His car looks fully repaired, at least bodywork-wise, so he should be back in this race towards the end here. I'm sure he's happy to see this caution come out and get through that unscathed. But yeah, I think it's pretty surprising that those guys were able to stay up out front and pull away like that before we had that quick caution. I think that the tire wear may not be as high as we thought it was going to be. I think that kind of shows that maybe towards the end of the race, to 2 tires might be the move if there's a late race caution. But we shall see.
I think that's still dependent on the track temperature, although it's been moderate for the majority of the night. If we're approaching 100 degrees plus, it could be a big differentiator. Potter now 34th, and you mentioned it, Lucas. That car looks from the outside just fine. He might be able to contend and get a few spots back before the job is done. At the head of the field, Blake Cannon.
Yeah, and we mentioned track temp. It's back down to 85 degrees now, so just big fluctuations. It looks like it didn't get much higher than when we last mentioned it. But these guys on old tires, they're going to be pretty happy that the track temp's gone down. Everyone's gone through a bit of a heat cycle now. I think that I know we're still pretty far towards the front of the race. You know, we're not even a quarter of the way in, but the more caution laps those guys can get, the better.
Coming toward that quarter-way point this time by. Thank you all for stopping by in the FTN chat room. Chris DeWeese cheering on Braxton, who's right now running in the 33rd position, escaping. It looks like mostly damage-free so far in our opening 2 incidents. We're hoping to get back to the green flag way of things as Blake Cannon will bring them in for the first lap of the start number 2. On his outside, Nick Tarbuck, and just behind is Jack Drucker. As we get ready to get back to business, watch out for Cannon and Drucker, both on alternate strategies. Again, Blake Cannon gets ahead of the field.
As we're seeing here, this track lends itself to some big blocks and big dive attempts into turn 1 on the restarts. Guys that get better restarts, the other guys can dive down. The track is so wide on the front stretch and the back stretch, for that matter, that it can get pretty sketchy. I think early on in this race, the guys are, cooler heads prevailing, but we'll see if that ends up changing towards the back half of the race.
Watching DJ Stagner on the outside of Nicholas Ward, one of the up-front battles that remains double file for this opening lap. He and Nick Tarbuck were working the outer groove right there. We'll see if it works out for anything. Ethan Lane watching by, also Matt Press there. But eventually, as we've seen, it's most likely going to become a single-file ordeal again as Tarbuck now looks under Blake Cannon, and this is the move for the race lead. Cannon now is on defense, but it looks clear his equipment will not cut it. A surge to the inside is all he needs. It's Tarbuck to P1.
Yeah, good move for Tarbuck there. See if those guys are able to drive away, or if Cannon will be able to hang on with him. I bet all these guys that are fighting side by side, and as we see a little bit of a 3-wide battle here, they settle each other out with Jared Davis. I think that a lot of these guys that are running side by side don't really want to be there for too many laps. I think that they just know that they're just burning off their stuff. But at the same time, this is a great opportunity for passing. So you really have to decide in your head as you're driving along at 150, 160 miles an hour what you really want to do. It's tough. A lot of things go through your brain at once. So hopefully that they're able to figure it out and make these decisions of what they want to do.
There's no guarantee we'll have any other restarts today. They can only guarantee what they have now. So you mention it. Whether or not you decide to be aggressive and risk it is all your choice for the time being, but you really cannot predict the future. We're side by side once again. Tom Wetmore going to be there with Michael Araya. These are the bottom positions in the top 10. Very valuable spots at that in this championship race, where we consistently have more than 40 drivers racing each and every night. Points matter big. Any position you could take as advantage compared to your competitors is a significant deal, and even spots outside of the top 20 or 25 could be valuable in the long run. We are now more than halfway through the regular season and coming close to our playoff picture. By the time we come back from our summer break in late June, we're going to have ourselves a field ready to rumble for the championship. That's still pretty far away for most of these drivers, Lucas, but when you're thinking about the big picture, a night like this where challenging the pass could set you above the rest of the field and really make an impact.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the mentality that I've been taking in my Highline season along with the other Swamp guys. It's just trying to make sure that we're working together and we're getting points and we're continuing to move along. Obviously, this series has a playoff format, so there's that wrinkle into it Highline doesn't have, but yeah, it really is down to points at the end of the day, and a lot of these guys are going to have that on their minds as we're going through this phase of the race.
Blake Cannon passed for second. That is going to be the driver of the number 24. Thomas Bresci, he gets himself up to P2. Take a ride on board now with Bresci here, Lucas. What can you tell us about what's going on inside the cockpit?
Yeah, I think that Bresci's really going to want to try to make a charge up to Tarbuck now. I think with four tires that he's feel like he has an advantage and he's got to get his way up there. He's cleared all the other traffic. He's just trying to get his way up there as you see DJ Stagner get by Blake Cannon now as well.
Bresci getting himself up to P2. He's got mostly clear racetrack ahead of him. The only exception, of course, is going to be Tarbuck. Then you look back, he's got a teammate in Matthew Thunhorst running in 7th. Michael Araya is currently, he's there in position number 8. He got by Vinny Tigner, and he's fighting in the upper portion of the single digits. And it looks like right now it's going to be single file right there. Michael Schroll making a move on Tom Wetmore, and this is the real hornet's nest, I'd say, Lucas. You look from 13th to 20th, and there's an abundance of close battles that are still being actively fought. Justin Morton for one.
Yeah, I've had my eye on this battle here too. Morton on the outside, as we mentioned him. Yeah, it's going to be, there's a lot of tight battles here, a lot of guys that are trying to make it 3 wide, a lot of 2x2, a lot of close calls, some wheel spin, some lockups into 3, some 3x3 battling going on as we speak right now. Yeah, it's tight here from 15th to 25th or so.
Henderson to the inside of Blake Gordon. Sebastian Miller ducking low as well. And then you're going to see Elliott Henderson watching on the back end. You'll also see a few drivers we haven't covered so far. Paul Mikolajczyk for one in the number 22 position. His career best finish coming as that 3rd place run he had at Kentucky. It was another 1.5 miles, but it's very hard to compare what we have in the United States to what we're seeing here today.
Raya saved it. He had a sideways car like we saw earlier. He saved it, though. I think he has a little bit of right rear damage. Not exactly sure what happened there, but he had a big slide going on in 3 there.
We're taking a look at it now on the broadcast. Michael Araya. Oh, wow. Just like what we saw from Gordon. He's really lucky to pull it together even faster than Blake did.
Yeah, that's, again, great driving from everybody all around there. Looks like, unfortunately, he's got some right rear damage now. Oh, as we see trouble here with the 77.
Paul Mikolajczyk.
Hard into the inside wall.
Big contact, spinning, wreck. Cautions out, 3rd of the day.
And that was a big hit for him.
And we're taking...
Like a very similar thing that happened with Ryan Potter earlier, and Mikolajczyk just got really in a tough spot there. Looks like Sebastian Miller may have gotten up into the wall and came off and sort of cleaned him out. Nothing that he could have really done there, just a racing deal. It's unfortunate.
Exactly as you described it. This time around, Seb Miller bouncing off the outside wall. Mikolajczyk ricocheted immediately. So the caution is out.
And unlike Ryan Potter, his car is junk. He hit the inside wall a ton.
Yellow flag flying. I think that's going to be game over for at least one of the drivers involved, specifically for Paul here. A lot of front end damage. That's going to take a long while to put back together. There's no damage clock. These drivers can stay on pit road for as long as they'd like, but still, the amount of damage right there, I think that's the most any one driver has collected.
And no safer barrier on the inside wall, but even if there was, I don't think it would have done much. As we see some guys coming down the pit road here, looks like a couple may have faked. One did go down. Was at that pitted. Blake Cannon has decided to pit. And honestly, I don't hate that. I mean, he was on the old tires. He saw that he was losing some ground, and now he's going to pit and have the freshest tires of anybody. If he can get a long run here, he'll be in really good shape.
Cannon to pit road. As many a driver go, that's going to leave Tarbuck, Stagner, and Thomas Bressi your top three. And that's going to leave Blake Cannon, of course, leading those off of pit road. The 27 gets on the way. He'll pass Laraya on the way out. Starting to see that divergence in strategy 36 laps in. For some, taking their second. For others, remaining on their first stint. Cannon's on the move. And then you'll have, of course, Jared Davis and company further on back. I don't know if that's the right decision. That's the big question. Do you stay out with what you have right now, save it for later, or instead do you split your stuff and try to get the advantage for this midterm run? There's no guarantee, again, that we have another yellow from here, and some drivers, I'm sure, are still thinking we can go green from this distance.
Yeah, and I think if it does for these guys that just pit, they're going to be in shape. A lot of these guys are only going to be down to their last tire set now. Yeah, 2 sets of tires in the pits, so yeah, like, it's a tough battle with tires. I know that Sebastian Miller right now, he's only got 1 set of tires left, and it's still only 35 laps into the race, so tough deal for these guys with the amount of tires that they have, but they also are very close to making it here. I know that Miller just pit, but these guys that just pitted are really close to making it to the end, so they might just need a little bit of a splash at the end as we see some guys that just did pit come down and top off. I think that if we do go green for a long time here, they're in a really good shape. They're going to have the best tires to the end, and they're only going to have a very short splash.
1 to green this time by 37 laps in out of 100. We go back at it for lap 38. Now we've got a lot of strategies running on the same circuit. And as we said earlier on, everyone else had the same task for those first 10, 15 laps. Things are splitting apart now, and you're going to see different racing attitudes come to fruition here. Will the drivers on new rubber be hasty to try to make their moves up fast to the front, or will they hope to see those who have decided to hold out burn themselves out before we go back at it again? Questions remain in the air as we are set to go back at it for our third restart of the day. Paul Mikolajczyk, Sebastian Miller, the men involved in that last caution. It looks like Miller is back on the way, and for the most part anyhow, the right side damage doesn't look critical. But for Mikolajczyk, he's going to take it down to the garage, and he'll be there for a long while. Coming now to the start-finish line again, Stagner on the outside. Tarbuck, who's been dominant to this point, is leading. We'll get back to green now as Nick brings him to speed. Into 1 and 2. Tarbuck has got it on the bottom. Bressi now coming with. DJ Stagner shoots up a little higher, and the outside groove has proven again the place you don't want to be as it's side by side further back, and it's rather close. Michael Stroll dips to the bottom, and it's going to be 3 wide now with Matt Press and Vinny Tigner.
It's tight racing. I think Tigner kind of got screwed over there being on the outside, but they were all able to make it work, giving each other plenty of room here. I think that Stagner, if he was able to get a good restart there, that he would have been able to hold it side by side, but he just unfortunately didn't get that quite as he had wanted, but he did settle into second place here. They're all starting to get in line as we expect.
Now, DJ Stagner gets a little bit luckier than someone like Tigner. As you mentioned, the Hornets Nest does its thing again. Going to be double file for the first coming laps, and we're getting closer already to the halfway point of this race. We've had some interruptions, we've had some cautions, but for the most part now, drivers are getting to understanding what they need to do from here. Wetmore a little bit loose. It looks like he's fine. He's up on the high side. 2x2 has mostly been popular in these back half positions where every point matters and drivers know they're fighting for it. Braxton Deweese, the last time we checked on him, he was in 33rd. He's now up to 15th, your defending champion. Looking to keep the ball rolling. He is still a top 10 contender in points. He's kept himself in the fight so far, but is looking for that big moment that really shows he's got it made. And as a defending champ, you need that. The number 1 team takes it to the bottom of Justin Morton.
Yeah, Vinny Tigner, he's still in the Hornets nest, man. He got leaned on the left rear pretty hard by Wetmore there. Luckily, everybody saved it, but that could have been ugly.
Tigner's now actually making up some spots. He's going to the inside of Rob Ackley here, and it looks like the recovery could be strong. And that's the one thing. Even if you end up on the outside groove, time is still with these drivers. You can get back down low, put yourself in the best position, and show you have pace. That's the also best part of that circumstance for Vinny anyway. He didn't spend a lot of time on the outside, so what he was able to do was put himself back in the right position so quickly. It looks like his stuff is still good.
The charge that Blake Cannon is able to make. He's knocking on the door of the top 10 already. We're so quick after this restart, but he's got fresh stuff on it, and he's ready to go back up to the front. It's highly impressive, the moves that he's making here.
Blake with 17 laps of younger rubber, 5 laps into his stint as compared to now 22 from those on the older tire. He's got the advantage in pace, but he didn't at all have the advantage in position. He's been picking them off one at a time. His next closest competitor is Jack Drucker right now in 18th. So Cannon is really one of a kind for the time being, and he's knocking on the door of Tom Wetmore, and he is now right up there. Wetmore is again his teammate, so we might see a little bit of a different reaction from Tom to Blake as these two are working together.
And right as Tigner thinks that he gets a bit of a break, here comes fresh tires coming up, flying up behind him, and he's got to try to hold off. I don't think it's going to be too difficult for Cannon to start making his way around as he sticks it on the outside there. He's going to try to get a good run off the corner, keeps it out of the wall. When he's going to dive down all the way down to the bottom in the middle of the backstretch, into 3 on the inside of Tigner there. And he's going to make that move stick. Oh, and he gets in the back of the... Oh, that is close racing. He saved it. Everybody saves it up there. That is a tough situation for everybody to be in. For Cannon to be on a fresh tire so much faster than everybody else, just trying to make his way through the field as quickly as he can. And the guys that he's trying to pass also not trying to get run over by him while holding their spots. It's a tough deal for everybody. It's very exciting.
Directly dropping to the inside and even laying that bumper on Matt Press. The fact that Press kept it so well together is another thing in itself. Great racing from all involved, but Blake Cannon is inevitable. He's got the equipment, and he's showing right now that he's got what it takes to go further. He's 2.5 back on leader Tarbuck, but that was a critical section to get past.
Yeah, now he's got a bit of clean air as he's crossing the start-finish line, and we'll see how much faster he's able to be for these laps until he catches up to Michael Stroll there. Yeah, he's going to be flying, and like I mentioned, these guys that just pitted, like him and Jared Davis and Fitzgerald and Miller, all these guys that are on fresh tires are all starting to work their way through that boatload of traffic that Cannon just made his way through, and it's going to be interesting to see how they make it. And if this does stick green, they are going to be in an incredible place in terms of tires, and they're going to be able to go longer and have a shorter pit stop, and they can basically respond whenever these guys that stayed out fit in and stay on the even amount of tires. So we'll see how it goes for them. It's looking really good if we can keep it green. They're getting pretty close to the window to be able to make it to the end now.
That's a great point you mentioned. The agency of having this new rubber is going to be critical for every driver who's on this new tire strategy. They can respond, as you said, whenever they want to, which means they can run it further. They could run into the mid-80s without breaking a sweat, or they could split the stint to directly compete among those on older tire. And it's getting really, really close now with guys like Jack Drucker getting in the mix. Drucker's on the inside, bringing Gavin Fitzgerald. And when you're in this hornet's nest with a difference in tire, that's when it becomes a completely different issue. I mean, Blake Cannon really shook up the scene, but imagine 5 of him coming at once, all trying to get to that preferred inside.
Yeah, as I mentioned, really tough deal. Just a lot of intense racing, guys on comers and goers here. I think for these guys that pitted, as soon as the window opens and the guys that are on older tires pit, they're going to have to respond pretty quickly as their tire wear starts to grow and their tire advantage goes away. As these guys come in for freshies, they are going to be on the opposite side of this phase, and they're going to be able to respond because the window is open. Interesting to see how long they can go. I think if they go too long, then you give up too much and the undercut will prevail, but it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out and what decisions these guys make. As we see 3 wide racing here with Tigner in the middle of it. Once again, he is in the thick of it right now. He is hoping for a caution, I'm sure.
Vinny Tigner, he's had everyone knocking on his door throughout this entire run. It's happening again. He's fighting now directly with Rob Ackley. But with Gavin Fitzgerald getting into his inside, it's going to be harder to defend that bottom groove. So many drivers all coming at once. Watch out now for Sebastian Miller. He was involved in the most recent incident with Paul Mikolajczyk, but it looks like his race is not over in the slightest. Now he's up to about 12th, and he's gotten that right side buffed out. He's looking strong again to take some spots. He goes to the inside on Blake Gordon.
And I'm sure these guys on older tires, it's funny how I'm sure that there's guys in the same team that one of them really wants to go green, guys that just pit, and some guys that haven't pit yet really want to caution really bad. And I've been in that situation before this season in Highline where it's just guys are on different ideas of strategy, and one thing will play out how it'll some people out and hurt others within the same team, so it's a really weird spot to be in. These guys that pitted now, the guys that haven't pitted yet, now that the window's open, they're going to want the caution to come out as soon as possible. And the guys that did pit are going to want it to stay out for as long as possible, hopefully go green all the way to the end for them.
We're coming to 50 laps remaining this time by, which means any pit stop from this point onward would get the field to the end of the race if they need to go that distance. It's, again, highly unlikely anyone's going to come in right about now, but if they need to, for some instance, it could happen. So from less than 50 laps to go, it's that safe zone when it comes to your tire and fuel. As long as you run with a little bit of consideration, it is the distance that can get you there. Someone like Nick Tarbuck, who still leads the way, even though he's on old tires, could go about 20 laps more at the very most. He's on his 31st, coming to his 32nd lap on this stint. If he's really keeping a good eye on his equipment, he could go up to about lap 50 for his run, which would bring him to about lap number 70. Blake Cannon, with that same potential in mind, could go upwards of 35 laps. That would bring him up to about lap number 86, and he can go again whenever he would like to pit road. We might not see him go that full distance, but he definitely isn't restricted the same way someone like Tarbuck or Stagner is. He's got almost 20 laps more range, and he's got the speed to back it up as he's getting so much closer now to the top drivers.
Yeah, he's a tenth or two quicker than these guys. It'll be interesting to see how quickly he can get through them and get up to the lead and get in clean air. I think that'll be the key to his race here, is to be able to get out in front and start to pull away and make a bit of a gap.
Blake Cannon, gap to the leader, is now just a half second, 52 laps in out of 100. That's going to leave us with only 49 laps remaining, coming to 48, and that's going to, of course, bring us into that final pit stop cycle. Taking a look further back, though, it is aggressive, and things are tense at the tail end. You'll see Michael Stroll going at it with Thomas Bressi right now, Jack Drucker watching. Matt Press here is side by side with Braxton Nuisi. He just barely slots into line, and then you'll have the guys outside the top 20 still fighting that same effect, although, again, it's gotten a single file. The aggression levels always simmering down in these long runs, and maybe now, Lucas, we've found that rhythm that's going to take us all the way.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a weird part of the stint right now where we're seeing guys that did pit for tires end up sort of, if they've burned off their stuff, that they're kind of evening out with these guys that are on the older rubber. And so you got guys on older rubber who are more or less even with the guys that just flew past them on speed if they didn't take care of their stuff. So it'll be really tough for these guys at this phase. They're just waiting for the caution or waiting for the pit stops to start. I think once we see some of the front-running guys on the older tires start to pit, then the rest of the field is going to have to respond. We saw that in the Highline race, and it kind of bit me a little bit, where DJ pitted right after the other lead guys pit, and I stayed out a few extra laps, and I lost a bunch of time. I think that unless they feel like they could be really dominant on fresh stuff later on, then they're going to have to respond to whatever the guys that are leading their strategy pit as well.
Blake Cannon for the race lead, dropping to the inside, and he is clearing away. It only took him a set of turns, and he's got himself a car length already. That's the difference between old and new rubber, and to the point goes Cannon in the 27.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time for that, but we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how long this stint will go for these guys and how much longer he'll have a tire advantage for. Until these guys pit, he'll have a tire advantage, but we'll see how much that goes. Now that the window's open and they're not in the lead anymore, they might be considering pitting.
Could happen as early as now, could be as late as lap 75. That's the big differentiator. Cannon having a critical race against Thomas Bressing in the championship, while both drivers are no doubt going to be playoff eligible. It's been Thomas Bressing with momentum for the past month and a half so far. These last few races have really gone his way. Tonight, not as much. He's still inside of the top 10, yes. But overall, Blake Cannon has been able to take hold of this strategy call and really make it his own night. He's up and ahead of Bressy, he's got positions, he's leading laps, and he might have a chance to lead the most laps on the day if all goes his way from this point on. The points race is big, and currently it looks like Cannon is living up to the moment. 6/10 back, you're going to have Nick Tarbuck there.
Seeing some good news in the chat that Paul Mikolajczyk has been cleared from the infield care center and is able to talk, so good to see that after that big hit off the backstretch there.
Well, it looks like Paul giving us the signal. We might have a good reason to bring him into the broadcast booth, Lucas. What do you say?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Let's talk to him.
And with that said, we're going to take a brief moment, bring in the number 77, Paul Mikolajczyk, waiting to get the call in the broadcast booth. He's ready and willing, and we've got him now. Paul, harsh hit, big damage. It looks like right now you're able to talk to us, so we love to hear what's going on.
Oh, man, that one hurt. There's no safer barriers around this track.
And I mean, when you look at the car, that's one big example, ricocheting down to the inside and getting rocked. One of the hardest hits we've seen all season long here. It puts you down to 42nd. Before the race, or before the incident anyway, how was the race going for you?
Yeah, I had a abysmal qualifying effort. I didn't really practice much, which is on me. I got a little distracted. But we're slowly making my way up there, just rolling bottom and just putting an egg underneath that gas pedal. It's real tight in middle corner, and it's oddly loose on entry. At least the way I had it set up with like my brake bias. It's tough out there.
How did you find the conditions fighting those off? Did you find there was a bit of a fluctuation in track temp? It was going all the way down to 80 degrees and up to 96 and back down, back and forth. Did you sort of feel that throughout the run as you were going along?
Yeah, it also gets weird with the rubber and with the amount of fog that's rolled through. You can't find the rubber. Like, it's hard to see. So you have no idea how hard to get the power down without spinning the rears and get them loose on exit, but out without being also tight because you hit the throttle too early.
Yeah, so looking back at that incident, did you feel like we were wronged by Sebastian Miller there at all, or just a racing deal, you feel?
Not wronged, just bringing out the dad code. I'm just disappointed,
Yeah, that's a tough deal for you. I sympathize for you, man, but I'm glad to hear that you're okay. That was a big hit, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I instantly knew the next level Chevrolet, or Toyota was done.
Unfortunately, that's going to bring an early end to this international race for the 77 team. Paul, anything else you'd like to leave us with?
Oh, we got trouble on the racetrack. Sorry to cut you off there. Blake Gordon is going around. A very similar incident to yours, actually, Paul. Again, we see guys getting into the wall off of two and causing an incident to poor people that are below them. Just wrong place, wrong time for them, once again.
We'll leave it with that.
Well, just as we say goodbye to Paul in the 77, we've got trouble again. It is Blake Gordon, and I'll tell you this much, the hits on the inside of that wall have been harsh. We saw him careening down to the inside, and that was all she wrote for the 13 team. Yellow flag is out.
And we're starting to see a theme these instances I mentioned, just tough deals for these guys, man. I think some guys may have gotten caught on pit road there. It looks like Ryan Potter may have been on pit road, so we'll see how this plays out for them. I think that a lot of these guys who were hoping for this caution, the guys on older tires just got it, and the guys that were on newer tires are cursing at the air right now because their strategy just went up in smoke.
This is going to even out the entire field. 39 laps to go. Unless there was to be a late race caution, this might be the final pit stop cycle of the day. To the inside groove, Gordon, Tarbuck, Stagner, Lane, and in that top 5, it's Jack Drucker. So this is going to be an interesting one. Everyone comes in together. This could be the do-or-die point of the race. And so Cannon is in. Let's see now who makes it out. 4 tires and fuel, most drivers have gone for. We have seen some no-tire calls. I think we might see some 2-tire calls here, too.
I think it might be a little bit too early for 2-tire calls, particularly for those guys that are on older tires, but guys that put 4 on here, they have a set over the rest of the field now, so they are in a really good spot. Again, it flips back and forth. If it would have went green there, then the guys that pitted a little bit ago would have been in a really good spot, but now these guys that were on older tires are back in the advantage because they have a set sitting in the pits. And I think that's a big reason why you see Sebastian Miller staying out. It's that he's only down to 1 set. He wants to try to save that. He's banking on another caution to come out. He's trying to save that set and have good rubber toward the end. We saw the charge that Blake Cannon had, and I think that Sebastian also may have seen that and is trying to emulate that. Needs a little bit of luck, but I think he can make it happen.
It's been a day of a few more downs than ups so far, Sir Sebastian Miller. He had himself a great run on Thursday night at this very track. He was involved in an earlier incident, but his damage has been mostly repaired, so the call he's making is risky, but I wouldn't say it's unprecedented. He's got himself a chance to maybe, just maybe, work this out. Coming to 1 lap to green this time by, it's going to be Seb Miller down low and Josh Christman up top with 37 remaining. We are coming to only 36 this time around.
Now, just looking back a little bit here, it looks like right before the caution come out, Ryan Potter was going to go down in the pits, and he kind of got trapped in the pit lane and got put a lap down as the caution came out. Highly unfortunate for him, but if he can get a quick caution, maybe he can get a lucky dog and get around these guys. It would have been beneficial for him if he would have had Sebastian and Josh and Kyle pit there, and he would have naturally waved himself around, but see if he's able to work his way back up to the front. Again, he's got fresh tires just like the rest of the field, so we'll see what he's able. Tough race for him. A lot of attrition, a lot of adversity to overcome for him tonight.
36 laps remaining. Double file, 2 holdouts on the front row. Kyle Cooper, the only else of which he's on a 24-lap stint, a little bit younger than Miller and Christman, but it shouldn't make much of a difference now as the new tires are lined up all behind. Whether or not saving for the next stint is the right decision comes down if we see a caution again, and a caution far from here. Time to spare, but the green flag is going to fly this time by. It'll be Sebastian Miller with control for the first time under green. He'll get the jump. Cooper gets loose, and we'll see them sliding through the front. Oh, Michael Araya.
The green as we run right now, but looks like we just have,
Gallagher.
More
Contact. The yellow flag's out.
Backup deals there, just highly unfortunate, man, for these guys in the back. It's like when one guy slows down or gets loose, it accentuates itself every single car down the line. It's tougher and tougher and tougher.
Casey Shue got into the 96 right off the wall, and that outside wall has been so lethal, not because drivers are slamming up, but because drivers are heading down. That's what sends Gallagher for a ride and gets him in the inside wall. A very familiar type of incident that has really been plaguing the field today.
I'm not sure what happened to the Tide car there. I think that they were pretty much separate incidents that started out there. I'm sure that the initial stack-up didn't help, but Gallagher kind of got involved in his own incident there. I got to look back and see what happened.
Well, Gallagher was hit by the 4 of Shue, and that's what set him off.
Oh, yep, I see that. Okay, yep. That was just a completely unrelated deal. Maybe he was checking up a little bit for some some cautious drivers ahead of him, which isn't necessarily the wrong thing, but, you know, again, just wrong place, wrong time for these guys on the outside line tonight.
Yeah, circumstance has been remarkably tricky for the field today. That's not really going to help out the guys on old tire. It's not going to help them all too much. Miller does get to lead a few more laps just by proxy, but it doesn't mean all too much of a difference. As it stands, it's going to be now toe-to-toe, the Miller machine with Blake Cannon. I think we know who's the clear favorite for this fight.
Yeah, it's hard to deny these guys on tires. I mean, it's tough. I think that these guys that stayed out, Miller and Chrisman, are closer on fuel than you would think, and I really do feel like they're trying to bank on a late race caution, but it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, in a way where if you pit, then you're out of tires, but if you don't pit, then you're kind of out of position. And I'm not really sure what they're waiting out for. I think that they need a lot of luck to bounce on their side, but if they can get that late race caution that they're hoping for, then they should be able to make a nice charge.
If we look specifically at Kyle Cooper, he might have the best claim to getting to the end of the race on the strategy he currently has. One yellow could really set him free, but with 34 laps to go, he's on at about a 26-lap stint to this point. As a result, he could go maybe upwards of 26 laps from here. He would be close. He would still need a break in between, but he might be able to hang on longer than Chrisman or Blake Cannon just based on the 4-lap difference that those two drivers had compared to Kyle here. He's running now in fourth. He was passed quickly, but not far enough down the ladder to make much of a difference yet. We're coming to 1 to green. I don't think it's going to be particularly a great case for him, but for Kyle, who started 42nd, anything is improvement.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough starting all the way in the back like that, but, you know, I'm sure that he's happy to be running in front, even being off strategy, as you mentioned. But I think, like I said, they're going to need a lot of help to make the strategy work. It's a risky one, but it could pay dividends at the end of the race. We didn't really get to see how it's going to shake out for them compared to these new tire guys. I know that Cannon was able to get a pretty quick jump over Chrisman, but at the same time, he was right behind Sebastian. So we'll see how it pans out as they actually get through 1 and 2 this time, hopefully, and we'll see how much of a disadvantage these guys are really at that stayed out.
Miller, Cannon, right alongside each other on completely opposite strategies. Going to be fun to see now as the inside line has all 3 drivers on old rubber lined up together, which could for the first time give the outside the advantage because you'll have Cannon, Stagner, and then right behind Jack Drucker also lining up there. The outer groove really hasn't done much of anything so far, especially on the restarts. We might see a change for the first time with this jump.
Yeah, I think that what that strategy that I mentioned of holding it really tight through 1 and 2 is going to come into play here as we come to green.
Here we go again. Sebastian Miller will get the advantage over everyone in the field, but the inside groove falls back several car lengths. Chrisman and particularly Kyle Cooper lay back. Nick Tarbuck now dives low. It'll be 3 wide rapidly. Cannon's the only one to escape.
Like I said, there goes Cannon around the outside looking for a move. You see Drucker go all the way to the bottom and make it 3 wide down the back. Jay Stagner's able to clear up in the top with Blake Cannon down into turn 3.
Here comes Jack Drucker making his way under Sebastian Miller, getting himself inside of the podium. How about a stand-up move for the number 56? That's one that's going to keep him in the talk for the rest of the night as Drucker surges down the back straightaway for lap number 70. A critical move made as now we're coming to just less than 30 laps to go. Up next, that's the move you need to make if you want to put yourself in the winning conversation.
Meanwhile, further back, we already see Kyle Cooper outside of the top 15. Top 5 or 10 there, and he's falling back quickly, he's stuck in the middle, 3-4 wide, all the way around the racetrack. Really, really tough racing for him right now. He's trying not to wipe anybody out right now.
Seb Miller sent 3 wide high. He's been up on that outer groove with no assistance. It really doesn't look like things are working out for him in that Red Bull number 83. That's the big trade-off of having that older tire. While it looks like he might have a chance in the long term, a run like this is going to be a nightmare for the 83. And really, even falling outside of the top 25 is going to be hard to recover from, even with new tire. Cannon did it so quickly, but he was the exception who got himself up front so fast. Now up in front, DJ Stagner, maybe looking for some redemption from Thursday night, as he's up to second with Cannon a quarter of a second ahead.
Yeah, these guys on old tires are really, really struggling right now. Hopefully it doesn't cause any sort of incidents with the pace differential, but they are just getting eaten alive right now. They need a yellow here in pretty short order, I would say. Type of yellow that allows them to pit for their last set, but at the same time, the guys that just pit aren't going to want to take their last set and try to hope for a comp again. They're going to really be hoping for the next really 2 to 3 laps just to have that slight tire advantage, but enough to where the guys that are already out here probably won't want to take their last set.
2x2, Boomer Logan there with Sebastian Miller. They're sending that Miller machine outside of the top 20 on this run. You'll see Casey Shue coming with, as does Nicholas Ward and Daniel Foss, with everyone coming in such rapid succession. There's really no way for the 83 of Miller to get around on this.
Yeah, I feel for him. I've been in this scenario before, just on the wrong tire strategy call. At least at the time that you think could be wrong, but we never know. We'll see how it pans out at the end. I thought that my tire strategy at Kansas this year with Highline was wrong, and it ended up winning me in the race at the end. So it all depends on how these cautions play out, if there are any to the end here.
Strategy all dependent on the future right now for Miller. He's going to be banking on it being a good one. Nevertheless, it's going to be now all about Blake Cannon up and in front directly. Then you're going to have DJ Stagner, who's running up in second for the first time tonight. And with the highest position he's had to this point, it is Ethan Lane in the number 6. Up to third. Lane has been rather quiet, a little bit more off the radar than usual. He qualified in 11th, and this is the highest spot he's running all night long. Lane is a no-doubter wherever he goes racing, and he's showing his face in the final portion of this event, and that's something he's done before, but it's taken him a really long time to get up here.
I think him and DJ, two teammates of mine in separate ways, are sort of seeing the very similar sort of race where they started in the fringes of the top 10 and they're making their way up towards the front. As DJ's getting really close to Blake Cannon here, he's chomping at the bit to try to get by him here, but he's also trying to bide his time and make sure he didn't go too early and expose himself to somebody of quite the caliber of a driver as Ethan Lane. You know, he wants to protect behind him as much as he wants to try to attack up front, so we'll see how it plays out for them. I think it's going to be really, really, really tight here as they get closer. He's just waiting for the tiniest little mistake, the tiniest little opportunity to try to make this pass happen.
It's that internal debate. Do you go out there, be aggressive, take the spot, and leave yourself exposed to not only Lane, but also Tarbuck, a former podium sitter at this track, or Jack Drucker, or instead, you decide to go on the defensive of those behind you. But that could give a further advantage to Blake Cannon. Now, I'm pretty sure DJ Stagner's seen this situation many a time before. He was only about a lap or two away from really having a shot at winning up this track on Thursday night. It came down to tire strategy for him. However, right now, for those up in front, there's really no difference going on. So it now just comes down to race pace and managing the same equipment. Whoever does it best would be the winner here, but the level of aggression plays a significant role.
Yeah, same place, but very different situation for DJ, as you mentioned. Everybody's equal on tires, where Highline race, it was a long run to the end and differing tires, and I think that these guys up at the front, like I said, they're really just waiting for an opportunity to try to get by one another without burning their stuff up. There's still a long lot of racing left. If it goes green in the end, we still got 15 minutes of racing left. We still got a good 20 laps left of racing, so they don't want to go too early. They don't want to burn their stuff up too early, and they don't want to expose themselves to getting passed from the guys behind. It's really exciting here towards. See how it pans out.
And you mentioned it, we're coming now to 22 laps to go this time around. As we usually do, we're going to crank things up with Whiplash Sim Cams. That's right, iRacing's best camera provider is back with us even when we go overseas. Visit Whiplash Sim Cams at their social media, including their Discord server, and you can try out their camera packs for free. Car and track packages come in at $5 a piece, and there's no licensing fee necessary. Once again, Whiplash Sim Cams. A major thank you to the Pit Stop TV crew for welcoming us to the Whiplash family. With 22 laps to go, we're going to crank it up from Japan and get loud from the Twin Ring Motegi, cranking it up from the front of the field on down. Blake Cannon remains advantageous now with 19 laps to go. We're seeing some drivers such as Sam Nieto following into the inside portion of the racing circuit. Pit stops are in effect, but you watch out now for the leaders. They are set to go the distance in this final bunch of laps. Lucas, as we look aboard, it's going to be a single file pursuit from the top 10 and the top 15 on down. Relatively calm, all things considered, but that attitude of aggression is going to build up slowly but surely, and it's going to do so very fast, I figure.
Yeah, as we were in that crank it up, we saw Ethan Lane attempt to pass DJ, couldn't make the move stick. DJ stuck it around the outside and stayed in front. But we did see Tarbuck make it around Drucker, around the outside in 1 and 2. That was a really nice move from him there, and he's trying to make a challenge up front with the top 3. I found it very interesting in the crank it up to hear guys differing strategies in terms of how they're driving the racetrack. You could hear it in the digger cam, and you can also hear it on board with the guys that they were shifting in 3 and 4. I think at least in the Highline race with the Gen 6 cars, it was pretty much a wash. You could use the shift to try to get you down in the corner if you went a little bit deep, but more or less even. It's just driver preference, I would say. So for those guys that feel like they're more comfortable shifting, it's interesting to see that it translates to the Xfinity car the same way.
Coming now to 16 laps remaining. Now, that differentiation in how the drivers apply the power in the racing circuit may be something we didn't see earlier on. But now, drivers trying to maybe experiment a little to get everything out of the car as possible. We're 85 laps in now, out of 100. Everyone's largely single file. Most positions are effectively guaranteed if drivers stay calm and collected, but that doesn't mean that the desire to gain is not there. That's why you might see a little bit more of that risky moving. Nick Tarbuck, of course, as you mentioned, getting up to 4th place, and that's his expertise at this racetrack. He was expected to be one of the strongest drivers coming in. Last time we raced here, he came in 2nd, just 1/10 of a second off of victory. So if he finished where he is right now, his average finish at this racetrack would be a 4th place, which by all means, across all the veteran drivers, would be the best of anyone in the series.
That DeWeese right there just made a really nice move. 7th place around Matthew Thornhurst there into turn 1. Great move around on the inside there in the Dips Ice Cream Shop Chevrolet there in the number 1 car.
Braxton Deweese up to his highest position today in 7th. Thank you for stopping by, fans in the audience. We've got Chris Deweese in the chat room, Doug Mittendorf for the Braxton Deweese fan club, Nancy Wetmore coming in and watching the 69 team work at it. Wetmore's been up and down. He currently finds himself now in the 25th position according to timing and scoring. However, his teammate for Roadhouse is still leading. 0.2 of a second. That's the difference between Cannon and Stagner. Rob Ackley is fighting hard against Thomas Bresci. Bresci just recently slotted to the inside, got the spot. Ackley tried to come back and get it, but it looks like now Thomas has it made.
Let's take too much attention away from the front-running battle, but just to check in with those guys that stayed out, looks like they're right around a second a lap off the lead pack right now. They didn't get that caution that they're hoping for, but hopefully if we do get one to the end here, they're able to stay on the lead lap before it comes out. They're losing a lot of ground.
Looking right now at Seb Miller and Kyle Cooper. They run together in 28th and 29th, respectively. Josh Christman has actually gotten away the better of those three. He's in 27th, but you mentioned they are so far off of this leading group, it's highly likely they would go one lap down before even having a chance to come in and gain positions. It's a really bad place to be if you're one of those three drivers who risked it, and it doesn't look like the risk paid off all too well. Bernhardt with Gavin Fitzgerald. That's the battle for 22nd. Bernhardt around the outside now, trying to make the move stick.
I think that those guys that stayed out, however, though, they can make it to the end, so they're not totally out of it in terms of they're not going to lose much of spots running out of fuel as long as they've been saving. I think they're probably right on, but they are in a decent place on fuel, I would say, as long as they've taken care of it and keeping an eye on their number.
They would still need a miracle to get back up there, but for the time being, that one extra set on pit road will not see use. 11 laps to go. We're coming across for only 10 this time by. Blake Cannon has not only let Stagner stay at bay, but it looks like overall he's been able to extend the gap ever so slightly on the number 64. While DJ has been close, undeniably, it looks like right now he hasn't quite been able to make the difference up. Instead, he's lost a little bit more time, and that's going to be the riskiest thing of all right now for Stagner. Does he push harder, and will it work out in his favor if he does so? Because Cannon looks comfortable, and he hasn't lost any time.
Yeah, and we can see that top 4 breakaway right there. 4 really, really talented drivers. You know, you come to expect these guys running up in the front, and they're putting on a great show here. It's coming up to 10 to go.
DJ Stagner going under the number 96. Again, the tide ride that we saw in some previous issues, and Josh Gallagher up in the wall again.
It looks like he's going to be able to hold it up there. We're going to be all right as long as everybody around him can avoid him. He doesn't do anything too abrupt as he gets down to the bottom and he's starting to let guys go.
Lap traffic coming into play in these final laps. Enter the single digits. 9 laps remaining. Still, DJ Stagner and company haven't been able to break off of Blake Cannon. He has been very strong up in the front of the field today, and it looks like right now, even though he's facing that considerable amount of pressure, he has not relented. This will be for 8 laps to go. 4 drivers in the bubble of 1 second, going back to Nick Tarbuck. Tarbuck is on the back end of this fight. Right now, he runs in 4th. He's going to have himself 2 tenths ahead. Ethan Lane. Lane right now is being broken away from it. Looks like Ethan hasn't been able to put the stuff on DJ Stagner. He tried once with about 20 laps remaining. Couldn't get it to stick. DJ has been able to brush him off and continue pursuing the leader in Blake Cannon. That's been the difference so far between 2nd and 3rd. But DJ has not yet gotten a chance on Cannon. And you got to wonder, Lucas, with 7 laps remaining, what else could be hidden for the number 64 here? Does he have anything left in the tank to get up to Cannon? Or at this rate, does it look like it's all Blake's?
I think at this point for DJ, he's just really hoping to keep the pressure on and try to force a mistake that way. Try not to make any mistakes of his own and expose himself to Ethan there and Nick behind. But it's going to be really tough to make a pass just on pace. Cannon has complete control of the race right now. As long as he doesn't make any mistakes, it should be in hand for him.
Coming to 6 laps remaining, a half a second difference between Cannon and Stagner, with Ethan Lane just behind. The closest battle inside the top 10 now looks to be Matthew Thunhorst and Cody Smith. They'll be side by side, but it looks like even then Smith has been pulled away from. Cody dives to the inside. He cannot get it. Then Matthew drops to the bottom. He's got it made there. It's going to be Matthew Thunhorst up into 8th. He'll be leading the team now with Thomas Bresci 2 spots behind in 10th for JTM. Nevertheless, that's not the lead battle, and coming to 5 laps to go, Blake Cannon is still keeping all eyes on him. He still has a shot to hold firm. Coming across the line, 5 laps remaining. The battle for the final spot in the top 5 has come alive as well. While Jack Drucker has been dropping off of Nick Tarbuck's radar, Braxton Deweese now has a shot to take what was a poor qualifying effort and make it a very strong race. He could gain 19 spots on the day if he takes this final position from the Drucker team.
Yeah, and a very similarly great day for Drucker, moving up 10 spots for him as it stands right now. Our top 3 as well, as we did allude to, they're Cannon up 12 spots with that strategy call. DJ and Ethan, like I said, very, very similar day, started at the fringe of the top 10, both up 8 spots, both sitting in the podium as of right now. But Lane is being challenged by Tarbuck just as equally as Deweese is challenging Drucker.
Braxton gets lower. Drucker blocks again. Still no dice, but I think we're going to see at least 1 passing attempt. Braxton looks to be quick enough considerably anyhow, to make a difference. Whether or not he'll get the pass remains to be seen, but it's clear now that Trucker is being pressured and he might be sent out of way with only 4 laps remaining. 0.4 of a second the distance between Cannon and Stagner. That's about the biggest gap it's been all run long. Blake looks comfortable with now only 3 laps remaining. This race is in his terms from here.
They got a little bit high in 1 and 2 there. He's up in the second lane. It might not be too bad. He had a bit of a gap behind him, but he's going to have a bit of a challenge behind now.
Gonna help out Ethan Lane if he wants any chance at second. Wasn't able to get there directly though, and Stagner recovers strong.
Yeah, good recovery from DJ there. I think he was able to take advantage of that momentum on the outside and kind of pull away a little bit as we see it get really, really tight here with Drucker and Deweese. Deweese is leaning all over the bumper trying to get by him, but he just can't make it past as we come to 2 to go.
Jack Drucker looks slightly low. He still has enough to defend, but Braxton Deweese lunges to the inside once more. Drucker not able to get to that preferred lower groove. That's the best move that Braxton could have made. He just made it. They'll be side by side. Drucker has to back out.
He hit up in the wall, but it was okay. He didn't end up coming down and hitting Deweese, as Deweese ended up going by and getting up into the top 5 at the same time. Thankfully for him, for Drucker, he hasn't fallen back to Stroll too bad. Looks like they're going to be able to settle out. Not too much damage there, if any, for him, but that could have been a lot worse, as we've seen a lot of incidents earlier on in the race with this very similar sort of story there. As we are on the final lap, and Blake Cannon is in control over DJ Stagner.
I'm sure that Drucker will be especially frustrated over that one. I'm sure that Braxton will be delighted. Nevertheless, there's one man who should be thrilled with his performance today, and a clutch one at that. Blake Cannon needing a victory to turn the tide on this championship battle. Not only will he get it, but he'll get it in dominant fashion overseas. Coming across for the checkered flag at the Twin Ring Motegi, Blake Cannon is back in business. The 27 team collects the checkered flag in Japan, and Cannon finds himself a winner once more. The job is done tonight for Cannon, and victory lane, which has been familiar to him all throughout his Ignite Series career, is once again leading that entire final stint and coming away with his 3rd win of the season, the most of any driver to this point.
A great drive from Blake Cannon there, making up 12 spots to bring it home to the end. He had that great strategy call, ended up staying out, getting the track position, getting that quick caution, coming back out on fresh tires, and able to make his way to the front. Very, very quickly, we saw him slide through the field like a hot knife through butter, and just unbelievably great drive from him. The guys that we expected to be up front were up front. They make great drives. Braxton Deweese up 19 spots to make it in the top 5. I'm sure that the fan club in the chat are very happy for him as we start to see Blake Cannon do his victory donuts in the front lane here at Motegi.
And we're going to let Blake Cannon burn down the house. It's his 3rd win of the season, and a big one at that. The 27 celebrates, and he's going to get things all finished up right by the start-finish line. Taking it down the front straightaway, and we'll see how long he goes in reverse. Cannon with the celebration, and very much worth it. 3rd win on the season, critical for championship expectations. And now he'll make it back to that start-finish line once more.
Yeah, he did a burnout very worthy of his drive there. He matched it up. That was great.
The night ends from the Twin Ring Motegi. Blake Cannon is your race winner. Cannon gets the job done and collects race victory over second place DJ Stagner, who was 7/10 astray. Cannon tonight leads 48 laps as Ethan Lane goes 3rd. Nick Tarbuck led 41 and had the majority of the early portion in his control. Wasn't able to complete it for a 2nd consecutive podium in Japan, though. He finishes in 4th. Braxton Deweese for 5th. Jack Drucker in 6th place. Michael Stroll then goes 7th with Matthew Thunhorst 8th. Thomas Bressi 9th. and Cody Smith concludes the top 10. Lucas.
Rob Ackley ended up coming home in 11th place, gained 3 spots on the night. Vinny Tigner, we saw him in the tight parts of the race all night, ended up dropping 3 spots to come home 12th. Tyler Hensley gains 14 spots to end up in 13th on the night. Great recovery there for him. Nicholas Ward, Boomer Logan, Jacob Fife, Gail Brooks, Justin Morton, Matt Press, and Daniel Foss round out your top 20.
Then from there, outside of the top 20, you'll see your 21st place driver. From Daniel Foss, you'll have to look only 1 spot back, and then you'll find Adam Wood. Brandon Bernhardt goes 22nd with Don Stevenson 23rd. Casey Shue finishing P24, 25th and Steve Durham. Gavin Fitzgerald 26th, and Tom Wetmore down 10 on the day for 27th. Up 10 for Fitzgerald, he went 36th to 26th, and notably Durham from 45th to 25th himself. 27th place is then going to be Wetmore, as we mentioned, with 28th. Michael O'Raya, P29, pole sitter Jared Davis, and Kyle Cooper goes up 8 to finish 30th and round out the top 30.
Yeah, unfortunate for Sebastian Miller there, ended up making it on fuel, but didn't get the caution he was hoping for, finishing out in 31st place. Ryan Potter looked like he had some tough situations going on with getting caught up in an incident that wasn't really his fault at all, and then getting trapped on pit road. Ended up him coming home in 32nd. Josh Chrisman in 33rd, very similar scenario to Sebastian there. Just I think he ended up running out of fuel. Alan Rowell in 34th. Josh Gallagher 35th. Sam Nieto 36th. Blake Gordon 37th, Hunter Menelanas we saw in that incident early on in the race 38th, Elliot Henderson 39th, and Will Reichert 40th.
Final drivers on the day outside of the top 40, Cal Filarski, Elliot Henderson, Ronnie Osmer, Brian McFerrin, Brant McClendon, Andrew Hamilton, 46th and last. Overall, when we got the cautions out of the way, we saw some great racing. It's always tricky at the Twin Ring, but the race leaders make it look easy. And the man who really did the most of that today was your winning man, that being Blake Cannon. Let's get a word from the number 27 team first and foremost. It's his 3rd win on the season and one desperately needed to turn the tide in the championship race. Blake Cannon locking it down in the second half and bringing it to victory. Welcome back for your 3rd, leading all drivers on the calendar.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
First and foremost tonight, especially with the strategy calls, you worked things out well, got yourself up to the front of the field, even if you weren't there to begin with. And once you got up there, you never left. How was it working the pit stop game to get you the positions you needed to succeed?
Yeah, man, everything really just worked out in my favor tonight. I mean, I didn't qualify the greatest and I didn't feel good in practice. So that first run, I was just taking it easy. And I really honestly thought I was going to be about a 10th to 15th place car the whole time. And then, I never really ran hard that first 20 laps or so. So when everybody pitted, I was like, you know what? I don't have anything to lose. I've already got a couple wins. So I just did something off the wall and it ended up working out. So hats off to my whole team at Roadhouse. Glad I could get this win and finally get my season back on track. I've had a couple rough weeks and made a lot of enemies, so it's good to have a good, clean race and to be able to come out on top.
Yeah, Blake, you mentioned a bit about your tough season. We are leading the season in wins now with 3. You are starting to make that charge back. You are only 77 points behind now the leader. You were 94 coming into the race. How do you feel that you could sort of get back on track for the rest of the season and make it work towards the end and make that fight for the championship happen again?
Yeah, man, it feels really good. I started the year off really hot, back-to-back wins, and then just bad luck and a lot of mistakes, and just not putting a whole night together really turned the tide on the championships. So I don't want to get too involved in points this early. We've got a long way to go, but anytime you got momentum on your side and you can come to a tough racetrack like this and really have one of the dominant cars, it just kind of stamps your name as a championship contender. So it feels really good to come out here and win, get my year turned back around. Hopefully I can continue the momentum on the next week.
Yeah, and another thing that you mentioned, it is a really, really tough racetrack here at Motegi. How would you compare it to a sort of traditional North American oval that you would usually go to on weeks like this? Did you find any difference in maybe the pavement, how it felt with the tires, how the tire wear was in comparison to how you'd feel, and just any sort of comments that you have in general on how the racetrack raced tonight?
It really reminded me of Pocono or Darlington, just the way the two corners were completely different. So 1 and 2, you had to be kind of flat out until you got three-quarters of the way to the corner, and then I really looked for the white line, like old Texas or old Atlanta, where you could stick your left front on it and it would steer the nose of the car. So, just a lot to take in on one lap around that racetrack is just crazy to me. So, I thought slower was a little bit faster at times. I know there at the end I kind of slowed the pace down because I didn't want to burn my stuff up too early. So, I took everything that I know on how to manage a race, how to manage tires, and then just keeping it down on the white line, and that's really what prevailed tonight.
Blake Cannon, win number 3, and turning the tides in the right direction and maybe starting a new leaf for this next leg of the championship. Up next is going to be a track we're all familiar with in one way or another, Watkins Glen. Last year, when you dipped your toes in the Integrity Ignite Series, you showed off your skills at another road course. So how do you feel about taking it upstate New York and maybe doing it again?
I really surprised myself earlier in the year when we went to the Roval. So I'm not going to say that I'm going to have dominant speed like I would on normal occasion, but a solid top 5, top 10, I think would be a win in my book going to road course. It's just not my forte. So I love the racetrack. I always enjoy going there, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fast guys. The racing is going to be really good, but honestly, it's not one of my tracks that I circle on my calendar.
And maybe coming up on more of a challenge than we'd predict. Nevertheless, Blake Cannon, the Roadhouse Racing crew, is back in victory lane. Any final comments and shout-outs you'd like to send? Of course, the floor is yours.
I just want to shout out to my team. They stuck behind me through the good and the bad. So I've made a lot of mistakes, and they've picked me up every time. So thanks everybody on Roadhouse. I can't thank each and every one of them enough. They're the reason why I'm here. So thank them. Thank you and everybody at the broadcast. We always love watching it and going back and replaying it. So thanks to Integrity Racing League. A lot of these guys in here, or everybody in here, is a class act. I love racing with everybody in here. I know tensions run high sometimes. We all do dumb things, but at the end of the day, I don't think there's another league that I would want to race in. So hats off to everybody, even the admins on Integrity Racing League. And, we'll see you next week. Oh, shout out to my wife and Cannon Creations as well.
Blake Cannon, dominant in the second half from the Twin Ring Motegi, coming through, now leading the series in victories. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
With DJ Stagner once again showing out strong from the Twin Ring, Lucas, I figure I'll leave this interview to you as we bring our second place finisher in.
Yeah, DJ, how do you feel the race went tonight for you? We saw it was really tight there with Blake to the end, but I think that probably it was the clean air or just a little bit of a tire differential there at the end made the difference.
Yeah, he had perfect placement. Like, you could never get air on the left front. He ran about as perfect of a 30 laps at Motegi as you can run. So credit to him on that. And, I was happy with the pace. 5, 6 days ago, if you would have asked me, my outlook on Motegi, I would have said it was by far, not even close, my worst oval. So, coming away with 2 seconds in the last week here is a positive, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, they could have little difference here or there. It's a whole different story, but honestly, 2 seconds at what I would have considered my worst track, take it all day long.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you feel this race compared to the Highline race? What differences did you feel between the two cars that we saw on Thursday versus now?
This car didn't seem to lose the tires as much. Highline on Thursday, by lap 30 or so, you could really tell a notable difference in tires, and I really didn't get that tonight. But then again, it could have just been that the front 5 or 6 or so, whatever, were saving really good and equally. So, that might be part of it. But like I said, it's just good job to Blake, because he ran literally as perfect as you can run here.
Yeah, and you and Ethan Lane behind you had very similar nights. You started out in the fringes of the top 10 and gained 8 spots. How do you feel like you made your way through that field and made up those 8 spots? Was it as straightforward as you did expect it to be, or did you have some trouble, or how do you feel like it went?
No, it was pretty straightforward. The last month and a half or so on Integrity, I just for whatever reason, haven't been qualifying to my standard. Tonight 10th is fine, but fastest in practice, thought that there was more out there and just missed it. I mean, completely missed the lap in qualifying. So I got to work on my qualifying consistency because that's really holding me back a lot these past 5 or 6 weeks. So a little disappointed in that, but we'll work on it.
Yeah, I would definitely trade off qualifying pace for the way you've been finishing, though, both in this league and in Highline. I'd like to shift to a little bit more of a personal question. As you know, me and you are teammates. So I think that we saw that Ty and Virginia in New Orleans last weekend were maybe getting married. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, they had a nice wedding in New Orleans last weekend, and I just wanted to give Ty a shout out on that. He's been pretty quiet and private about it, but I think everybody should know and give him a little shout out. So congratulations to Ty and Virginia on their wedding in New Orleans. So happy for both of them.
Pitching it up down in the swamp. DJ, do you have anybody else that you want to thank out tonight?
Just everybody on the team tonight. I mean, we ran pretty well as a team. I think that Sebi and Josh kind of had an awkward strategy happen. And poor Ryan, I mean, he was running great, and he literally pitted on lap 60, and the caution came out like on lap 61, so he was just trapped. So, I mean, he had no fault of his own. His race was ruined, and I think Will had a little accident earlier, but he still ran. Well, he didn't run pretty well because he crashed, but like he was running well before that. So shout out to all of them on the night, and shout out to you and David on your broadcasting tonight. Shout out to Integrity and all the admins here. Tonight was a great race. So no complaints that I've heard. No complaints out of me for sure. So look forward to next week.
All right, DJ. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Swamp Motorsports again showing out strong and finding the podium in the Integrity Racing League. One more driver we'd like to hear from. That's your third place man, Ethan Lane. And as always, strong tonight, but a little bit more undercover than his otherwise dominant ways. While he didn't lead any laps, don't let that lap leading deceive you. He had the pace to keep it intense till the very end. Just a second away, Ethan, from victory lane today. The final quarter, you really put yourself together and made it a hard fight.
Yeah, that was definitely tough. Not a big fan of this racetrack. Not a big fan of the setup that we had, but it is what it is. We were on the same stuff. First off, congrats to Blake. He drove an absolutely perfect race. Those last, I think, 25, 30 laps, maintained the gap, maintained the tires. But overall, I'll take a P3. Good to start putting in some consistency here lately.
That's something I think that's been a talk of your racing in this series for more than a year now, getting that consistency and getting those podiums even when you don't get the victories. Now tonight, you qualified just outside the top 10, so you were comfortable with that pace, but it took a long time to really get you up here inside the top 5. Were you confident with what you had coming in, or was there a little bit more difficulty in putting the pace together?
No, it was all track position tonight. If you didn't have it, it was very hard to pass, especially with how much on throttle time we had in the turn 1, and then how you had to run turn 2 and not overdrive 3 and 4. So like track position was king. Once we got it though, we kind of overdrove the tires that last run trying to get past DJ. But yeah, no, it was definitely hard work tonight.
Yeah, Ethan, I noticed that you and DJ and Blake all in the interviews tonight have mentioned that Motegi isn't their favorite track, or they felt like they struggled, didn't really have any confidence, anything like that. What do you think it is, even with you guys that didn't really feel great about this track coming in, that ended up having you rise to the top? What do you think makes the difference in that sort of scenario?
With this track, mainly track position. But I don't know. Just being able to fight all race and then eventually find yourself in that position to where you have a shot to win, but if you can't pass, then just settle in and ride. Because if you don't, you can cause a wreck, and I almost did with DJ. I saw an opportunity when he slid up into 3, but yeah, no, it is what it is tonight. Thought we had a shot once we got track position, just overdrove tires.
Yeah, and even with track position being such a tough thing tonight, I gotta say, you and DJ gaining 8 spots and Blake gaining 12 spots, it's highly impressive that you guys were able to make up all those positions. I think that, you expect to see you guys up at the front, and you delivered again, once again tonight. Always good to see one of my Nexus guys up in the top three. Good to talk to you. Do you have anybody else that you'd want to thank tonight, or anybody you want to shout out?
Just everyone in the league. I know it was a rough first half of the race, but after that stage, everyone got it sorted out and we had a good run to the end. To y'all for broadcasting tonight. It's definitely gonna be cool hearing two people in the booth. And then just everyone at Integrity who runs it. Really fun race, really tough race. Looking forward to next week at the Glen.
Ethan Lane, coming up next on another road course, maybe putting it together for victory is the end goal. But until we head back to the Empire State, any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with in the booth here?
Not much, man. Just looking forward to going back stateside to try it. I know I'll be good at.
Checkered flag flies. Ethan Lane rounds out the podium from Japan, 6th team for P3. Thank you once again for stopping by.
Thank you.
With Lane on the move, we've spoken now to all of our top 3 drivers. Of course, the number 6 team coming away with P3. DJ Stagner in the 64 for 2nd. Blake Cannon in the number 27 goes for 1st. It's his 3rd win of the season here, Lucas, and the night is concluded. An exciting one at that for the Twin Ring Motegi. It was a little bit hard to see for the majority of the day, but what we did see was great racing and strategy involved from flag to flag. Before we sign out for tonight's event, any final thoughts you would like to leave us with your first night in the booth?
Yeah, thanks for letting me make my debut. Thanks to Integrity for letting me come on tonight. Hopefully I can make it to some more races throughout the rest of the season. It's a great series. I love watching the races on Monday nights, keeping up with how my Swamp guys are doing and how the series pans out. It's been really exciting, and this one just proved it to the test again. This is another great race for Integrity.
And Lucas, first and foremost, great to have your insight coming in. You raced with us at this track just a few days ago. It was wonderful bringing you on, and we're hoping as well for the FTN booth that we can have you in for more. Viewers, if you've enjoyed tonight's coverage, we're coming back tomorrow, of course, as the Octane Series heads to the Texas Motor Speedway for a 200-lap feature. That's what's up next on the FTN calendar, but until then, you've been watching coverage from the virtual Twin Ring Motegi in Kyoto, Japan. From the Twin Ring, here is coverage of the Integrity Ignite Series, Race 11 of the 2025 season, and I've been your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing, alongside our guest driver analyst, Lucas Lodato. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel. Your support is always thoroughly appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you at our next race in the Ignite Series, Monday night, 9 p.m., same time, same place, at the Watkins Glen International Circuit. Congratulations to race winner Blake Cannon for his 3rd victory on the campaign. We hope you have a fantastic night.